Welcome everybody in. Go Blue. Is it the last dance in 2023 for Harbaugh? Fall camp takeaways, Jim Harbaugh press conference, and more coming up on Michigan Wolverines Live. And welcome to the 103rd episode of Michigan Wolverines Live. My name is John D'Adamo. I'm going to be your host for the next hour. I want to remind everybody to please like, subscribe, share with a friend. If everybody brings in a friend, then we double, maybe even triple who's in here. Put the link all over social. Just get the word out so that we can have a great show, lots of interactivity in chat, even though some people may not be happy with me today. I'll take my lumps, and that's okay. We do recommend that everybody sends a super chat in if they want their comment or question read. If not, I will try to get to everybody's. But this show is going to be something else. So I think we're going to have we probably will have a lot of comments. So why don't we get right to it and start with this? And this, by the way, this gives me no pleasure to talk about. However, I think we need to accept the very real possibility that this could be the last dance for the Jim Harbaugh era in 2023. Folks, imagine that you're Jim Harbaugh. You maybe have one more stop before you're done in your entire career, or you could stay at Michigan. John Harbaugh, your brother, is on the other side of the Thanksgiving table with that Super Bowl ring that he beat you to get. And think of just how competitive Jim Harbaugh is as a person. That has to eat away at him more than anything else that could possibly happen. And so, with that said, there are a couple of factors why I think that this is the final year. And I could be wrong. Things could change. But let's break it down in the following way. First of all, let's look at the team. If you've been watching, if you're a regular watcher of Michigan Wolverines Live, you know that I'm very high on the team this year. We've talked about the 81% returning production. The Big Ten network had it closer to 77%. Either way, it's a lot of returning production. And it puts Michigan in a very unique position when they have one of the only starting quarterbacks coming back, returning, along with Talia Tagovailoa, and a few experienced transfer quarterbacks like Cade McNamara, Hudson Card, and others. But when you dive deeper, two of the best running backs that Michigan has had, I would argue Blake Corum is the best running back in college football. I was on the Buckeye Mike 30-minute war last night. If those of you who missed it should go check it out. And we talked about that Blake Corum, even last year, Jeffrey Only Talk Sports argued, even last year, even with Bijan Robinson, and other key players, that Blake Corum still was the best running back in college football last year. And you could make a case that until he got injured, he was pacing ahead of the Heisman running back winners. Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Reggie Bush, until he got injured. And then they caught up, obviously. The defense is returning a lot of production. The O-line could be the best ever, or at least the best in the last 3 years. And they won the last 2 Joe Moore Awards. And you look at that, and that they are in a great position to win the national title, or at the very least contend for the national title. And then you look at the extenuating factors elsewhere. Folks, I understand that Burgergate, which is what I'm calling it, got punted to 2024 for punishment. We shouldn't necessarily be celebrating that because it doesn't mean that there won't be punishment. The committee just kicked the can down the road. They rejected the negotiated settlement. Harbaugh lawyered up, and that's not just going away. If anything, it could get worse after the hearings. I don't want that to happen, but there is a possibility that the NCAA decides that this is where they're going to mount their last stand because they are becoming extremely ineffectual as an organization for football with the NIL era. You take the NCAA ridiculousness, you add into it how terrible Ward Manuel has been as an athletic director. I have called on this show for his firing on numerous. I'm surprised he hasn't been let go already. Mike, let me know if you can hear me. Jason, welcome. Thank you for always being here to support the show. And this is one reason why I think that Harbaugh's gone. But it's not the only reason why. Yeah, sorry about that. I got so animated, I knocked out my mic. Because it's a travesty. It really is. Harbaugh is the best coach we've had in a long, long time. So between the NCAA and yes, it is ridiculousness. Yes, I think you're being sarcastic, but I know that some other USC people have said that the level 1 violation is more legit. But Josh Pate laid it out very well on the show the other day. A lot of these level 2 violations they happen all the time. He has personally seen advisors coach on the field. Zoom, watching practice over Zoom is a violation worthy of punishment. And yes, the burger. And the question of who paid the tab, when, but they don't have proof, which is why Harbaugh's lawyered up and why they're pushing back, because this is going to go most likely to a hearing and then most likely to court if things don't go the way that they want. But that's a whole other matter. Now let's talk about NIL and Ward Manuel. So NIL, we have talked about on this show repeatedly. Michigan is not paying or coordinating with the collectives to offer upfront money, in this case, sponsorship packages. We're not talking about bags here. We're talking about sponsorship packages, including maybe social media posts, signings. There are asks of the players in exchange for the money. But when Michigan is up against these other schools like Kentucky, and I'm not saying Kentucky's giving bags, but let's be honest. They probably are. I have no proof, but I think that they could be. Texas A&M was caught on film admitting that they are. You can check it out on YouTube, Google it. It's a thing. Michigan, if they were allowed to offer upfront money, I believe would be top 5 in recruiting every single year. Michigan's alumni network is one of the vastest in the country. Folks, our alumni have a lot of money. We have a lot of business owners. And the fact that the modus operandi has been to limit that power has to be frustrating. Even if Harbaugh, in principle, in theory, is all on board with transformational, not transactional. So let's combine that and the disadvantage that he is in compared to almost all the SEC schools, Ohio State, I think at least some of them are offering sponsorship dollars through their collectives. We saw Jalen Rashada's $13 million Gator Collective NIL deal that it didn't go through, but like I think you can use that as a template for the largest deals. We are in play for the #1 quarterback in 2025, Bryce Underwood, and LSU is probably going to offer somewhere in the $2 to $3 million range for sponsorship. So with all of that said, you then have to look at the fact that there hasn't been an announcement for an extension yet, and that President Santaono himself is negotiating directly with Jim Harbaugh. Ward Manuel got cut out of the equation. Ward Manuel has been an ineffectual, lazy, do-nothing athletic director. And those of us who have been following and have experienced the pain of this know it firsthand. And imagine that that's your boss that you have to report to. And you're out there every single day, pounding the pavement, coaching these players up to be the best they can be, to have enthusiasm unknown to mankind. And people in chat saying, I don't know Jim Harbaugh, then you haven't watched my show. Do I know him personally? No, but I've been following this team pretty intimately for the last 8 years in terms of the Jim Harbaugh era. And then I went to the school before that. So you can say whatever you want. I'm giving you an insight based on what I've studied, what I've tried to learn over these last years. So I've laid out how good the team is this year. I've laid out some of the factors why Harbaugh's probably annoyed. Even if the NCAA turns out to be a nothing burger, he still has to deal with it. He still has to deal with media questions about it. He still has to deal with the conversations going on, even if it turns out to be nothing. Really? You're going to come at me for watching players on Zoom when COVID was basically a free-for-all for a lot of schools, a lot of coaches? You're going to come at me for not remembering who picked up the tab for cheeseburgers? You're going to come at me for having advisors coach on field when many, according to Josh Pate, many schools do it? It's absurd. Now let's look at the NFL side of it. It has been reported, not just by Josh Pate, but I read multiple reports that Jim Harbaugh turned down the Denver Broncos this past offseason. The year before, the Minnesota Vikings turned him down. But this past year, he reportedly turned down between $9 to $12 million at the Denver Broncos. NFL teams have been interested in him. Now, let's look at the Raiders. As we know, if we followed the Raiders, we followed the Harbaugh drama in the past, Mark Davis and Jim Harbaugh are good friends. Brand new, shiny new stadium, Allegiant Stadium. It's gorgeous. I recommend all of you check it out if you get the chance once in your life. It's really cool. The state-of-the-art facilities. They go and they get Jimmy Garoppolo. Love Jimmy G. I think he's awesome. He gets injured a lot. I don't think McDaniels is a Super Bowl head coach. He's a Super Bowl OC. Definitively. He's earned that. But I don't think he is a Super Bowl head coach. And with getting Jimmy Garoppolo, knowing how injured he gets, I think that there's a real possibility that the Raiders are on the crash for Caleb train. That's right. I'm calling it, we had tank for Tua. Now we have crash for Caleb. And it's very possible that the Raiders could go 4-13 this year, putting them in the crash for Caleb contention. He will be the first overall pick. And let's say that Caleb Williams goes to somewhere else. Guess who else could be in play? How about one J.J. McCarthy? Yes, J.J. McCarthy, if he has a great season this year, could be going to the NFL. So now we have a puzzle coming together. The pieces coming together. The Raiders, possible. The Chicago Bears, possible. People don't want to hear about the Cowboys. Jerry Jones wants to win another Super Bowl before he dies. I think he wants to win another Super Bowl even more than he wants to hyper control everything on the team. I think he will at least have a phone call with Jim Harbaugh from his supervillain yacht. You guys remember the 2020 NFL draft when everybody was like doing it from their houses, or Bill Belichick did it with his dog. Jerry Jones did it from a supervillain yacht. Goodell narrated it from his basement. It was wonderful. I mean, it was one of the few silver linings of COVID, and there were very few. It impacted my life a lot. It impacted everybody's life. But at the end of the day, that was kind of fun. That was like one of the few fun things, right? We got to see everybody's house. We got to see everybody's kind of take. But the point is, there are teams that will be in play for Jim Harbaugh. And if what we've been hearing about the Denver Broncos offering him a job and him turning it down is true, then he's in play for jobs. So with all of that said, with how competitive he is, with how his brother has the Super Bowl ring and he doesn't, and with everything else going on, and he might have one more stop before he retires. Put yourself in Jim Harbaugh's shoes. What would you do? Would you stick it out after this year? You're losing a ton of talent. Would you stick it out with everything going on, or hang out in Vegas with your buddy Mark Davis, with a multi-billion-dollar stadium, tons of resources, or another team? There will be more than one opening. Folks, I think this is it. I could be wrong. I could be very, very wrong. But I think this is it. Thanks, Steve. I appreciate the sarcastic encouragement. All right. Vaughn Mitchell. And I know you're not the only one who said it, but you gave the financial contribution, and thank you for contributing to the Voice of College Football and Michigan Wolverines Live. Really appreciate it. If you've been following Ward Manuel, I'm sure you have, and I'm sure a lot of people here have. When you look at what he's done, it took multiple years to react to NIL. NIL, many of the SEC schools and others were cleaning our clock. We just started our first strategic partnership with the Champion Circle NIL Collective. Other schools have had strategic partnerships, close partnerships for years. We just got our first one. Exhibit A right there. Exhibit B, the fact that President Sanaono had to step into the contract negotiations with Jim Harbaugh. That is not the president of the university's job. That's the athletic director's job. So the fact that the president of the university had to step in means that something was going on, and I argue it was partially laziness and partially whatever beef they have with each other. But at the end of the day, if your job as athletic director is to lock in these coaches, then by definition, he isn't doing his job, and by definition, he's lazy. Okay? I don't know if any of y'all have been in the corporate world. Maybe all of you have. And you've had a situation, or at least you've seen it on TV, you've watched Office Space, whatever the case may be. And imagine that your boss that you start negotiating not with your direct boss, your VP, but with the CEO of the company. Then if I'm that VP in the middle, I'm sending my resumes out, because that's not how it's supposed to go. So there are two examples. You can extend to the handling of some of the issues of the program in other sports as well. I'm going to stick to football. But at the end of the day, even the hiring of Jim Harbaugh wasn't his. It was the interim AD before him who hired Jim Harbaugh. So the fact that he's been slow to react, slow to embrace the NIL world that we're all living in now, what's been happening with the contract negotiations, I hope that those were just a few examples of what I'm talking about. Obviously, we only have a 60-minute show, but hopefully that helps. As far as Jim Harbaugh being an elite coach, I agree, he is. Jim Harbaugh went to San Diego, turned around San Diego. He goes to Stanford, he turns around Stanford. He wins an Orange Bowl with Andrew Luck. He goes to the San Francisco 49ers, turns around that program in a year, gets to multiple conference championships, wins a conference championship, and goes to a Super Bowl where he was one play away from winning a Super Bowl. And if DPI was called on that play, which it would have been in today's era of football, then Cap runs it in at like the 1 yard line to win the Super Bowl. Then he comes to Michigan. That was in a sorry state with Dave Brandon, who may have been even worse than Ward Manuel as an AD. Brady Hoke, Rich Rodriguez. I went to the school during this era. It wasn't super fun, except for the year that they won the Sugar Bowl. That was the exception. But Jim Harbaugh comes in. Year one goes 10-3. Wins the Citrus. And from there, continues to keep the program around 9-10 win average until these last 2 years, where he cut his salary, he changed out the personnel, fires Don Brown, takes it on the chin, goes in and beats Ohio State the last 2 years, wins the Big Ten championship. Those 2 trophies were proudly displayed on Big Ten Media Days and on that table. Yes, the postseason performance isn't fantastic. I admit that. 2-7 in bowl games isn't really good. However, you have to also admit that the caliber of opponents that we've played from time to time have been pretty good in the bowl games. FSU lose by 1 point to Dalvin Cook. No excuse for South Carolina whatsoever. Not even going to try. Lose to an extremely good Florida team in Dan Mullen. Lose to the eventual national championship Alabama team, almost the entire personnel that went and won the national championship the year after. Lose to the national champion Georgia. Lose barely to an extremely good, for what they are, a TCU team that had a Cinderella year. Were some of those games better excused than others? Yes. I don't think there's any excuse for South Carolina, and I don't think there's any excuse for TCU. But he is an elite coach. He is a program revitalizer, a program builder, and he knows what he's doing. Thank you, Bizzer, for your $4.99 super chat. Interesting avatar there. Do we have Brad Pitt incognito in our chat right now? Buckeyes, the coldest team in the league. We ain't playing this year. Them Buckeyes taking it all this year. All right. I think we've done that to death. For those of you who weren't here the other day, we have breaking news on the Voice of College Football merch site. We now have free shipping thanks to our friend Joey Foster facilitating that. Check out our merch store. It's almost football season, so if you get your merch now, you should get it in time for the East Carolina game for sure. Free shipping. Check it out. And yes, there's a Michigan section with lots of great merchandise that you can look at. So Jim Harbaugh had a press conference. It's now been about 3 weeks of fall camp. We'll start with injuries. We've got a few key injuries that were announced: Amarian Walker, Darius Clemens, and walk-on receiver Logan Forbes. So Amarian Walker, obviously we hate injuries. We don't want to see them. Amarian Walker was contending for the second cornerback position. Darius Clemens was contending for wide receiver. And so, that's gotta suck for both of them. I hope that all of them come back so that they can at least have meaningful game time in the season. But those are the 3 injuries I heard about. If there are any others, let me know, and we'll add them. Join our Patreon Discord. Talk Wolverines all the time. Go to patreon.com/MarkRogersTV or become a YouTube member. So what were we? Some breaking news that, and again, Harbaugh in his conferences tends to scatter the news in with just like, these guys are really great, right? And you have to kind of pick and look at what he's saying to figure out what the news is. This is news. Tyler Morris came into fall camp a starting wide receiver, according to Jim Harbaugh. And we said on the show that Tyler Morris could be a starting wide receiver because of his connections with J.J. McCarthy. They called each other Mufasa and Simba in high school. They have a great relationship. And Tyler Morris apparently was the leader in the slot position to be the slot wide receiver. But not so fast, because what we're hearing now, according to Jim Harbaugh, is that Carmelo English, Frederick Moore, and Sima, I can never pronounce that first name, Morgan, are impressing. And so that's obviously pretty notable. I think it's still going to be Morris, but you know how Michigan goes, right? The fact is they like to mix it up. So, Harbaugh said they're not playing like freshmen, and that when he's saying, he's talking about English, Moore, and Morgan, their ability to get out of a break. We haven't seen that from any freshmen, let alone too many receivers that have come through here. Their ability to track the ball. Frederick Moore's ability to track the ball is as good as I've seen. Simaj Morgan, quick, fast, and in shorter stature, but big catch radius. So get out of a break is a big one, right? And he's right. We haven't seen that to the level that we wanted to. And so it sounds like the freshmen are impressing. I still think it's going to be Morris game 1, but it's very possible that it could go another direction. Thank you. I appreciate the critique. You can call it whatever you want. Ineffectual. How about that? How about ineffectual? You like that better? Let me know. When you're doing your shopping on Amazon, which many of us do from time to time, check out the Voice of College Football link in the description, because then you get Mark Rogers a couple of bucks. And what is wrong with that? Especially with the season that we are planning here at the Voice of College Football, it's going to be loaded. So help support the network and shop on Amazon and use Mark Rogers' Amazon link. It's in every description of every video that we do. So this is something that Harbaugh has done repeatedly in his career. He's naming essentially 2 starters on each of the left tackle and right tackle position. So if you remember from the episode where we predicted kind of the fall camp, where it would lead, we kind of said that Carson Barnhart, Ladarius Henderson, Trente Jones, and Miles Hinton were all contending. I predicted that Carson Barnhart and Ladarius Henderson would win, but it sounds like what they're doing is they're grouping Carson Barnhart, Ladarius Henderson at left tackle, and Trente Jones and Miles Hinton at right tackle. And so those competitions are going to go through camp and even the first couple of games. If you remember the audition, JJ versus Cade last year. That's what's going to happen here. They're going to start 2 of them against East Carolina, and then they're going to start 2 of them against UNLV. And hopefully by the time we get to Bowling Green, it has solidified, but we will see. Thanks, Buckeye Mike. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. We're trying to knock these through pretty quick, you know. So let's go to the edge position. And from what I understand, Jim Harbaugh said this in an interview with the Big Ten Network, that that the defense is actually outperforming the offense in the practice. So he was talking with our former All-American tight end Jake Butt and others about this, that the practice that they had witnessed, that the defense was outperforming the offense. That's notable because the offense is you got a Joe Moore award-winning O-line, most of them returning. Then you have 2 starters on each tackle position, and you're going to say that the defense is outperforming? That's massive if that's true. And Jalen Harrell, Braden McGregor, Derek Moore, and Josiah Stewart apparently are the top 4 in the edge position. He gave particular love to Jalen Harrell. So I think that is notable. He says he's becoming a complete player in terms of an edge, more athletic pass rusher, expecting him to be very proficient in coverage, somebody who can really get the quarterback and set the edge. Guess what? We were kind of missing that at times in 2022. You remember in 2021 when we had, Aiden Hutchinson, Ojabo coming after the quarterback? That's like the one thing that I was missing at times in 2022. Jesse Minard called a great defense overall, but that's something I was missing at times. And I'm excited to see Jalen Harrell out there and others come after the quarterbacks, especially when you get to the best games of the season and the best teams like Penn State, Ohio State. You need your impact players to be going after Drew Aller and going after Kyle McCord or Devin Brown, whoever the heck winds up winning that job by week 12. So I think it's very encouraging that we're hearing that the defense is doing well. So Chris Foote, friend of the show, calls in sometimes. Jim Harbaugh, and this is all I'll say on this, and I'm moving on. Jim Harbaugh has, in fact, if you go, I want you to go to wikipedia.com. I want you to type in Jim Harbaugh and look at his records at every stop he's been in, starting with San Diego and then going to, and then you're going to notice the wins going up in each example. That's the definition of turning around a program. So the Amazon link is the same shopping experience as you would normally do. It doesn't have U of M products, but if you want to shop for U of M products on Amazon, you can use that link and then go search for a U of M product. The U of M products are on our merch store. So if you go to I'll put the direct link right here. So this is the merch store, and it's the direct link straight to the Michigan football, the Voice of College Football products. So if you want to get a Michigan football, a Voice of College Football merch, that's the direct link to do it. But thanks for flagging that. Appreciate it. And thank you for those of you who have given super chats. We really do appreciate everybody doing that. Here's something that I really enjoyed. And we have had callers on our shows the last couple of weeks saying great things about Alex Orji, including Buckeyes, who have said great things about Alex Orji. Now we're hearing it straight from Harbaugh's mouth that Alex Orji is being tried out at kick return. And even went as far as to say that he could be one of the greatest kick returners of all time. Remember, AJ Henning is gone. He's at Northwestern, and I'll be watching Northwestern football and watching him hopefully have a great season. I wish him nothing but the best, but of course that means you have a punt return and kick return battle. So at kick return, Harbaugh said that Alex Orji, he's a big 230-pound guy, just started doing kick returns. He's also excelling at quarterback, so there's some decisions that have to be made. We have to improve in our kickoff return blocking before I agree to have Alex Orji returning the kicks, because you might need him at quarterback too at various points in the season. So that makes sense. Also, Khalil Mullings, Roman Wilson, and Eamon Dennis. Didn't know about him. I believe I have Roman Wilson returning kicks and punts in the NCAA video game stuff that I do. So that makes total sense. And then punt returner Mike Sanderstill, Khalil Mullings again, Donovan Edwards, and then a couple others: Jake Thaw, Keyshawn Harris, Carmelo English, and Tyler Morris. You know what's notable? Khalil Mullings being put in both of those camps. See, I always think of Khalil Mullings as like a 1 or 2 yard guy. You need your 4th and 1 and you need to ram it in for a yard or 2. You get Khalil Mullings out there maybe. He's being considered for punt and kick return. That's pretty impressive. He must be working on his speed in the offseason. Hey, Mike Fort. Yes. I'm sorry you have to work. And, I work all day as well. I get it. Keep in mind, we will have a second Michigan show this year, in addition to the Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, because we have to put it there, because then we have FSU at 6, Miami at 7. Probably there will be other shows in between that, and then you have the Pac-12 chat show live at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, so you're kind of stuck there because you don't want to overlap with another show. However, we will have a show that you'll get to see live. Michigan post-game live after the games with host Dre Artis. Dre is coming back to host that show because I basically said, you don't want me doing that because, number one, I can't do it every Saturday. Number two, I think people get sick of me if I host every freaking show. So I'm very happy Dre decided to come back and to host that show. And I will join when I can. We're going to have some great times after the games. And we'll start with the East Carolina Pirates post game. So that should be really fun. I can't wait. Appreciate it. And yeah, it surprised me too when I read that this happened, that this was being discussed. Go Blue Sports Talk. Thanks for coming in. Thanks everybody for coming in. We really appreciate all the love here. And that's where we're at. Some other pieces that we looked at from Harbaugh's conference, cornerback depth chart. It sounds like he's between Josh Wallace and Keyshawn Harris for the top cornerback. I think it's Josh Wallace. I think he's going to get it game 1, snap 1 from UMass. He's a veteran starter. He has, we talked about it on the 30-minute war yesterday. He's started for 4 years, has amassed a ton of tackles and other stats in his career. And I would be very surprised if he isn't the starting cornerback number 2. And Sanderstill, as we know, is the nickelback. And we know that Will Johnson is our number 1 cornerback. Although he has been working, I remember that there was some type of injury that he was working through, but hopefully he'll be okay for game number 1. So we were hearing about cornerback. We're hearing about the position battles, as we talked about. And last but certainly not least, and I think this is fun, Harbaugh has an enthusiasm unknown to mankind sticker now. So currently, Chris Jenkins is the enthusiasm unknown to mankind winner for 2023, but don't count out JJ McCarthy, Blake Corum, Zach Marshall, and others, because they've also received enthusiasm unknown to mankind stickers. So that's always a fun little thing that's going on there. We got to talk about this. I don't want to. I really don't. I'm trying to keep the show a little positive after The Last Dance, but we've got to talk about this too. From what we've heard, Jacob and Jared Smith may be going to Kentucky. And I'm very curious to hear why. Why wouldn't you go to Michigan? Just looking at their their numbers. I mean, they Cheshire. Yeah, they went. So Jared Smith went to Cheshire Academy in Connecticut, and so did Jacob Smith. Connecticut's a little far from Kentucky, so I don't think that it's a geographic thing. I don't know. Maybe they didn't think they'd get playing time, starter playing time. They see the amount of players on the 2024 class, and maybe sponsorship dollars may have a factor too. Just saying. We already talked about that, so I don't want to talk about it again. Let's go to the comments. The punters, absolutely. Harbaugh overhauled Michigan. Khalil Mullings is 1 for 1 as a quarterback. Yes, he is. Thank you, Jason, for putting the link here. And yeah, we'll get on making Mike a mod too, as he's a mod on the main channel. I agree with that. Buckeye Mike, Evil Mike. Now, I will say this. I do a show with this guy. Let's be good. Let's be nice to him a little. I know he's a Buckeye, but we have Buckeyes in here that come in and just take a crap on everything, and he doesn't. Okay? He actually brings insight. I may not agree with him. That's why we have an entire debate show where we, basically fight each other, right, in terms of debate. But yeah, he's a good guy. Let's be nice. What happened to Dez? Let me address this for the record once and for all, and then I'm not talking about it again because I've said it on comments, I've said it on here, I've said it on other places. Let me be very clear that Dez and Dre, we love them both, and I have said to both of them that anytime you want to come back on any show that we do, you have an open invite, just text me, I'll send you the StreamYard link, no questions asked. They decided to move back from doing the Wednesday show due to family and work obligations. They decided to step back. Okay. We still get Dez coming in from the All Go podcast, comes in to comment from time to time. And as we know, Dre is coming back to host Michigan Post Game Live. So he is able to do that show. So we're very happy. And if Dez ever wants to stop by, he knows he can just hit us up and we'll give him the StreamYard link any Wednesday he wants to come in, period. So that's where we are. I guested on the show. I was asked to kind of take a larger role because I was able to do the show more regularly. And, that's where we've kind of wound up. I will say that next week, I will not be doing any shows. So next week, I'm out for a conference in Minnesota. So I'm out. I won't be doing Big Ten Live. I won't be doing the Michigan show. So that'll be up to Mark on if he wants to have one and if he wants to host it, whatever he wants to do. Big Ten Live, obviously, he hosts that, so that's going to be fine either way. I'm going to be back for the Ocho on the 28th, and we have a very special East Carolina preview show that we're putting together for you on the 30th. We have two media people from Maize and Blue Review and Blue by 90 who are slated to join us. And so we're very excited about that. And we're going to be breaking down the East Carolina Pirates and the keys to victory for each team, particularly Michigan, because, of course, it's Michigan Wolverines live. All right. Oh, even Sam Webb confirmed it. Then it's happening. It's official. Go blue, Mike. That's right. Thank you for backing me up there. Because people think that like we kicked them out. We didn't kick them out. Like I would love to have them back. And we we have a group chat going. We've got the anytime either of them wants to come on. So Dre was able to make it for the 100th episode. If you go back a couple episodes, so he hit us up, let us know he could make it. We sent him the StreamYard link and he came in, and that was really fun special episode. If you haven't seen it, we had Mark Rogers live from Big Ten Media Days. Then Dre stopped by and we hung out and we took calls. Great show. And obviously Mike called in, repping his Michigan shirt with the voice of college football. Thank you, Sports Talk. Michael always can count on you for interesting takes. Sports Talk 101. What Michigan game are you most excited for? Depends on what you mean. Because obviously, like, I think most people have Penn State and Ohio State circled as exciting games. I might actually go to the Rutgers game. I'm thinking about going if we can get that together. I'd like to. I try to go. I'm gonna try to go to one game a year, and I'd like to go a little bit earlier this time than I did the Blizzard Illinois game. So Penn State. Obviously, at Beaver Stadium is going to be really good. Ohio State at the Big House. I think those will both be really exciting. But I'm just excited for East Carolina so that we can see we can see what the offense looks like. We can see what the defense looks like. We can kind of see what's going on. Even though I think a lot of the starters will not play very much in that game, I'm still excited just to see football again. As far as I know, I don't know what the art is in here. This is the business center. I can ask for you if you want to know. Thank you, Troy. Always can count on you to support. And here's another Buckeye who hits the like button, and that's very appreciated. Yeah, it could be the gym drama. Yeah, it could be what I talked about at the beginning, the Last Dance. Or it could be a sponsorship dollar thing, or it could be something else. Maybe they really vibed with the coaching staff at Kentucky. There are lots of possibilities. Thank you for everybody saying hit the like button, hit the thumbs up. We really do try to put together a good show here. I think LBC is in here too, and we really appreciate that. And LBC does Trojan Conquest live every Sunday night. I believe it's at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific right now. I know it's moved around a couple of times, but they do that show. Pac-12 Chat Show live is tonight. So we're very excited. Yes, I know you won't sub, but at least you hit the like button, and that is appreciated. Thank you, Buckeye Mike, for saying that. Well, it's in my business center. So my apartment has a business center, and I go and I just think the show looks a lot better here than on my couch, which would be the alternative place to do it. Because otherwise Gizmo goes nuts, tries to jump on my lap. He does not like it when I do the show from elsewhere. All right. General reminders to wrap up the show. Tomorrow night is the conclusion. And for many of you, you're going to breathe a sigh of relief based on my gameplay. But tomorrow is the conclusion of John Plays the Season. Michigan versus Ohio State. You are going to hate me for most of the game. You will hate me for most of the game. And then maybe not. So that's all I'm going to say on it. It's an interesting game. And I recommend people check it out. It'll be 6 p.m. tomorrow Eastern time. Mondays 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern is Big Ten Live. Mark Rogers, voice of college football, normally takes the opening block from 6 to 8 p.m. And then when I'm available, which I won't be next week, but I'll be the week after, I do the 8 p.m. Eastern block, which we call the Ocho. And we have a panel discussion, usually two. We usually have to rotate because so many people want to call in, which is really, really cool. And I appreciate everybody doing that. I really do. Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, we have the 30-minute war on the Buckeye Mike channel with myself representing the Michigan side and Buckeye Mike representing the Ohio State side. We try to get a moderator as well. So we had everybody knows Jeffrey Only Talk Sports, great guy, who was the moderator. And what was also cool is he gave kind of the Indiana perspective too, which I thought was unique, and kind of since Ohio State is playing Indiana as the first game, I thought it kind of added a little bit of something to it, which I thought was cool. So if you haven't checked that out, I have a link in our community page. You could check it out. It's a 30-minute war, and definitely take a look at it. I made one boo-boo, because Blake Corum was not a freshman in 2021. He was a freshman in 2020. But, of course, he had to compete against Zach Charbonnet and True Wilson and Hassan Haskins and Chris Evans, who came back. And by the way, he looked pretty good in the preseason game the other day. So, made a little boo-boo there. My bad, because we were talking about comparing the freshman stats of TreVeyon Henderson to what Blake Corum was doing. And I said, well, Blake Corum had to compete, had Hassan Haskins taking a decent chunk of those reps. 2020, his freshman year, was even worse because it was like a six-headed beast. So 30-minute war with myself and Buckeye Mike. Saturdays during the season, don't forget to watch Michigan Postgame Live with Dre and myself when I can make it. I'll be back on Monday, August 28th. That'll be my next show. So that's going to be Big Ten Live, the Ocho. And then we'll also be back for the East Carolina preview show. We're going to be talking about games. I can't wait. We're going to be talking about an actual game of football. And on Big Ten Live, we're going to talk about actual games of football that have been played. I cannot wait. I'm so excited for these shows. So next week, you get to not have me. You get a break from me for next week, and then I'll be back on the 28th. Next up on the Voice of College Football's must-see TV block today, in about 5 minutes, Florida State live at the Voice of College Football. So I'm going to put the link right here so that everybody can just go right over there. Boom. And they do a great job over there. I enjoy that show. I listen to it. I try to listen to it every week. Miami at 7. And then, and they also, by the way, the Miami hosts are so knowledgeable with football. I mean, so good. And, even people were saying, John, well, why don't you get somebody this good? And I'm like, we will get people that know X's and O's throughout this upcoming year. And who knows, maybe we'll even get somebody on the coaching staff. I mean, you never know, or former coaching staff. I'd like to get some more X's and O's talk going in here. So, Miami does a great job with that, and the hosts on the Miami side, and then Pac-12 Chat Show Live, 10:30 p.m. Eastern tonight. Before we go, let's just do some final looks at the comments here. Michael Campbell stirring shit up. Thanks, Michael, for representing the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Jake Butt, yes. He does a great job as a broadcaster, though. I will say that. He's a great broadcaster. He's doing really well on that. Thank you, Casey Mallory. Iowa Hawkeye coming in here saying hit the button. So you have Buckeyes saying hit the button, you have an Iowa Hawkeye saying hit the button, and of course a bunch of Michigan Wolverines. So this transcends rivalries and school hatred, and they're still saying hit the like button. That's pretty cool. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Loveland and Barner will both be high picks. I agree. I think Loveland is going to be a first round or second round draft pick, and Barner is going to be up there too. If he has a great season, it's absolutely possible. And yes, love that, Billy the Kid. Excellent comment, top tier comment. Marshall and Stanford should be your concern, not Michigan. And they also struggled against a team called Cal. And he comes in here and tries to just jab us a little bit, so we gotta return a jab back or two. Hopefully Marshall and Stanford can be defeated by the mighty Notre Dame. I don't know what I don't have their season off the top of my head, but I think they'll probably do better with the quarterback play that they have, if I'm being fair. We are the enemy. Yes, and we have Buckeyes do the same thing. You're not alone. Thank you, Jason. Thank you for saying hit the like button. That's big. Hey, I'm down for Don Patterson or anybody who's a former coach who can bring an X's and O's perspective, because people are watching the Miami show. They say these guys are really knowledgeable in X's and O's. I agree. I loved this last Miami show. I thought it was really, really good. So I'm hoping we can bring some of that talent in as well. And we will. And we've had great talent. We just had Dennis Fithian on just the other day. We have people as well that are really knowledgeable in the game of football, and in the media as well. So with that said, you've got about 2 minutes. Head on over to Florida State Live. Let them know John sent you. Hit the like button over there. Even if you can't make it to the show, just hit the like button and then head out if you need to. It'll just help get them revved up, get them started for Florida State Live. And that's it for me. And I will see y'all in about a week and a half. And until next time, as always, go blue. See you around.